Hello, my name is Destiny Collins. I am, of course, a student at North Carolina A&T. I am applying for my master's degree in English and African American literature. And for my midterm today, I decided to do a presentation on Sula by Toni Morrison. And the theme of my PowerPoint will be on friendship. Friendship was the quintessential aspect of this whole story. It was the importance of the whole story. It talks about love, it talks about sexuality, and it also talks about really deeper meanings of the word friendship. But all in all, it's all about friendship. And the title of my PowerPoint today is called Female Friendships. Are Sula and Nell True Friends? And what I found interesting about this book by Toni Morrison, it is like a coming of age story of two young black girls. And I can relate because I was once that young black girl and I had a best friend at the time. We grew apart, but of course we're still cool and we're still like, when we see each other, we're cordial. But I wish that it could always be like how it was when I was 7 years old and she used to come by to my house and I used to go to hers, and we used to see each other in school every day, hung out every day, like twins every day. Like, I always had a best friend. But I always remember that one best friend when I was young, and it just put me in the mind of that because me and her were as thick as thieves, like Sula and Nell was. And it just resonated with me. And I thought that the story in the book was cool. And I finished the book and I enjoyed it. It was sad, but never mind that. We're going to get to the PowerPoint. Again, the title of my PowerPoint is Female Friendships. Are Sula and Nell True Friends? And what I started off with the question, what is a friend? I gave a basic definition. A person whom one knows and with whom one has a bond of mutual affection. It could be girl and girl, boy and boy, or boy and girl, or in this world, non-binary, they or them, he or she. It involves love, romance, similarities, platonic relationships, trust, and plenty more. In all cultures, friendships are important relationships throughout a person's lifespan. And I can agree because I believe that friendship is just as important as family. I go in and I describe what this novel Sula is about. It's a novel by Toni Morrison, of course, published in 1973. Stories about the friendship of two young black girls. They're both from Medallion, Ohio, in a town called The Bottom. And it's a black urban community and it's called The Bottom. And these two meet because they share a bond. With the story, it opens up with Nell and Sula's parents and how Nell and Sula became to be. And when I read the story, I felt that Nell befriended Sula in spite of her mom, because she kind of wanted to rebel, and she couldn't just rebel like a normal adult would. She was still a child. So the closest thing to her innocence to rebel against her mom was to go against the opposite of what her mother wanted Nell to be. Nell was more prim and proper, more docile, quiet. Sula was the complete opposite. She was rambunctious, she was loud, she was a kid, of course. And, she was very free-spirited, which Nell wasn't. And another thing that I found interesting in this story that coincides with friendships is the battle between good and evil. And with Nell is seen as the good person, but we'll get into that later down in the presentation. Nell is considered good. Like I said, she's more docile, she's more quiet, she's more to herself, while Sula is, like I said, the complete opposite. And with their friendships, it kind of shows like the good side of a friendship, but also the evil side of a friendship. And even in their individualities, like both Nell and Sula have good and bad traits with each other. And in this PowerPoint, I quoted something from the book from Sula. Because each had discovered years before that they were neither white nor male, and that all freedom and triumph was forbidden to them, they had to set about creating something else to be. Their meeting was fortunate, for it let them use each other to grow on. Daughters of distant mothers and incomprehensible fathers, they found in each other's eyes the intimacy they were looking for. And I felt like that was a very important paragraph in the story. And it also speaks volumes on their friendship and how they came about. From what I read again in the book, they kind of met each other in their dreams. It's kind of spiritual. It's definitely cute. And it's kind of like a meant to be situation. Like, their friendship does seem like it could have been meant to be. And I just thought that was really cute and interesting, because they both talked about and they wanted the same things, but they wanted it in male partners. You know, they wanted compassion, they wanted love, but they really didn't realize until later on, which we will also get into, that what they really had was each other. Like, they was really each other's soulmates. And I thought that was really cute. What makes Sula and Nell good together? Like, what makes them friends? And before I go on about that, I should have clarified earlier that with this story, it's more so about, I know I said the battle between good versus evil, and it is about friendship. But with my paragraph, I wanted to show, like, were they really true friends? Like, there's some aspects to them that could be like, oh yeah, they're good friends. They might just be young and innocent and they don't really know too much about the world and life. But it started off that way, and then it gets rocky. And I just wanted to show, like, what about them makes them not good and what makes them good as friends. And what I said, what makes them good together was they had 3 key factors. Each of them have 3 key factors, in the positive and the negatives. The positive side of their friendship is that they share similarities, they're intimate with one another, and not just in a sexual act, and sexuality. But that's different. I mean, I just feel like that was more so when I brought in sexuality, it also ties into their similarities. But it's still kind of like what makes them good, if it makes sense. I'll get into the sexuality aspect of it later. I had a mistake. Okay. With Nell and Sula's similarities, they share loneliness and dreams of compassion, like I stated earlier. They both wanted male companions. They both wanted to be loved and to feel, you know, a man's warmth, touch, everything. They wanted to have boyfriends. They wanted to feel what love was like. Sula, she was kind of like that in a way, but Sula was just more like her, I don't want to say like her mom, but she was just more like, yeah, that's what I want. I just like boys. With Nell, she was more like, I mean, I like boys too, but I wouldn't mind being married. You know, Sula that wasn't in her brain. They both have absentee fathers. With Nell, her father walked out on her and her mom when she was young, and Sula's father died when she was a baby, leaving her with nobody but her mother and her grandma. And they share similarities with that. And they also share similarities of kind of like broken homes and strained relationships with their parents. With Nell, she was more so like a rebellion in an innocent way. Like, she didn't really like the way that her mother was treated. Off course, off topic kind of. Her mom, they were going on a trip to New Orleans, and the conductor on that trip, on that train ride, he was being rude to her. Of course, it was during the Civil Rights era, the Great Depression era, I'm sorry. And it was still racism going on. So, of course, the conductor was white and Nell being black, her mom being black. They were, you know, treated wrongly. And she realized that no man on the train had her back when it came to that man disrespecting her. And she always vowed, Nell always vowed that she would never be like her mama. She's going to make sure that she has a man that takes care of her, and she has a man that, you know, sticks up for her. With Sula, she, you know, she had a broken relationship with her mom because her mom didn't really love her. I mean, she loved her, but she wasn't like very fond of her. Like, she didn't like her. And she overheard that, and she just felt like, wow. And you know, her mom is kind of like out there, and their house isn't all as polished as Nell's house. She looks at Sula and thinks like, wow, I really love your life. I really like your mom. I wish I had a mom in a house like that. And she looked at Sula and was like, really? I'd rather have your life. So they kind of bonded on that type of trauma. It was like a trauma bond, which is sad, but that's what it was. Like I said, both are raised by their moms. Both are from the same place, same age. They both go to the same school. And yeah, in a nutshell, neither of the girls can really find support from their families, i.e. their mothers and the grandma on Sula's side. They could never really find like a true ear to listen to them. And you know, it was a different time back then. Like, the mom's duties was to just go to work, cook and clean, take care of the kids, and that was it. There was no like emotional support. There was no mental health awareness thing going on around the time. It was so taboo that they didn't really have that true support. They didn't really have someone to talk to, and they just confided in each other. And I guess that's what made their friendship pop. Not I guess, but that is what made their friendship pop. Nell and Sula, when it comes to sexuality, their similarities is that both ladies experience a sexual awakening together. During the story, they get harassed by this guy named Ajax, and he tries to, you know, talk to them, but he's really disrespectful, calling them pigs, and it just made Sula kind of upset. So what she does, she threatens the guy. I don't know how she did it, I forgot, but she threatens him and scares him off. And in that way, that was kind of like, you know, Nell's protection. You know, she was like, they were very protective of each other. And they were both interested, and that's, I guess, where the similarities come from. They were both interested in the talks of sex. And I kind of remember one time in my discussion board where he brought up like sexual feelings for one another. I don't think that it was more so sexual. I just think they were very like, again, what we're gonna get to, they were just very intimate. Like, they were just they loved each other so much. They kind of knew each other so well, like through the bodies and everything like that. So there was just like, it wasn't like a sexual thing. It was more like and it wasn't like oh, I'm so in love with my best friend. It's just that they just shared a common bond with sexuality, and maybe they probably did have some type of feelings for each other. I don't think so. I don't see it. What made the situation somewhat better was that Sula was there to protect her, which I stated earlier. Although they didn't share the same views on sexuality, they both trusted each other with information of their sexuality, which I thought was really neat and cute. And on intimacy, oh, why does it keep doing that? On intimacy, I said, although they were opposites, they both learned from each other and give to each other, which is important in friendships. They give and take from one another, and that was really sweet of them at such a young age. I also said that both Nell and Sula come from a different background. The fact that they both look for they both lack from something from their mothers creates a common bond, which I stated earlier. They really bonded off, like I said, that like trauma bond. It's like that type of thing. And they just really wasn't, Sula really had it bad with her mom when it came to the love. Eventually Sula's mom died in the story, but Sula didn't feel any ways towards her mother's death. And with Nell, I'm pretty sure she didn't really feel that no ways towards her mom when it came to her growing up. And that's what they kind of shared a bond in, because they both didn't have mothers to support them like that. Not in a true way. They just had a mother that was just there to just take care of them, like in a physical attribute type of way. And I also quoted this from the book. Sula lifted her head and joined Nell in the grass. In concert, without ever meeting each other's eyes, they stroked the blades up and down, up and down. And I thought that was interesting because, They both do the same things without ever paying attention to each other. And when you have that best friend like that, like you guys talk and say the same things at the same time, or you guys wear the same clothes and you don't even know it, and or the same shirt, or you have the same color, like when you see your best friend in school or something like that, you're like, hey girl, I'm wearing the same thing as you got. Oh really? I haven't even noticed. You know, that type of thing. Like you guys bond off of outfits, and you just pick on each other's social cues, and you make it your own. And I think that was really nice about Sula and Nell, because that's what most best friends do. You know, they just always kind of like not one up each other as friends, but and I can't even think of the word, but they just share, like they're so tight to the hip that there was really no boundaries with them. You get what I'm saying? Like they just didn't really have boundaries, and it kind of dwindled, and it showed throughout the story with this death with this young boy with Chicken Little, and they didn't know how to treat each other with it. You know what I'm saying? So I also go into what makes Nell and Sula not good for each other. I'm sorry, I'm just really nervous and shy. What makes Nell and Sula not good together? And I also brought up other 3 key factors: pride, betrayal, and loss of loved ones and of time. And we're going to get into that. Betrayal. Nell turns her back on Sula after the tragic incident with the little boy named Chicken Little. So the story with that was they were playing, and Chicken Little, he wanted to play with Sula and Nell, and you know, he's playing with Sula. They're, you know, I guess they're playing like Ring Around the Rosie. She grabs his hand and it slips, and he gets thrown in the water, and that eventually kills him because he doesn't, you know, he can't swim, he drowns. And it took a toll on them because they didn't know what to do. They were so young. Chicken Little was so young, and it caused a really big grief and loss in their community, in the Bottoms. And with that, Sula kind of lacked emotion. Nell was kind of going through it. She was sad. She didn't really show her emotions outright, but she felt it. Like, she really felt it. And Nell felt like Sula didn't. And she felt like, since she had more compassion, she was more compassionate about the situation. She loved it. I mean, she loved Chicken Little, and she was crying and, you know, being there for Chicken Little's family and the community, and Sula wasn't. She just felt like, I'm better than you. Like, you're not a good friend to me. Like, you're just very dark, and there's nothing about you that makes me happy. You're always caught up in some drama. Like, Nell just thought she was really better than Sula in the middle of the book, and she was very uppity about it. And Sula, I guess she caught on. She did, and it just kind of break apart because the death was just such a big toll, but they didn't really know how to talk about it and get through with it. And they didn't tell anybody about the death of Chicken Little. I mean, it's been a secret up until Sula's passing, but we're going to get into that. And it was just a big toll on them as kids, because as a young kid, you know, you see someone's dying in front of you, you're young, and you don't tell anybody. And again, mental health was such a taboo thing. They just went along with the emotions, and they just kind of broke it off, their friendship, and it just wasn't healthy for either one of them. And later on in the book, they grow apart, and Nell finally gets to, you know, become what she wants to become, an educated black woman with a husband. She marries this man named Jude. Jude marries her off of benefits. Like, it's the only way that he, as a black man in America, would get the police and everybody else off his back if he presents himself as a family man. And Sula, she travels the world. You know, she goes off to college. I'm sorry, Nell didn't go to college, but she did eventually get married. She becomes a housewife. Sula was the one who went to college and traveled the world and learned about herself, and she grows up to be this, I guess you want to call her, promiscuous woman. She comes back to the bottom with a bad reputation, and people look down on her because of, you know, how the way she lives her life. She doesn't want to be a wife. She doesn't want to And she doesn't want to be a housewife. She doesn't feel like that's enjoying for her. She just likes to be by herself in her own little bubble, in her own little world. And I could agree with that. And you know, she just didn't want to be the Susie homemaker type like Nell. But she comes back and she reconciles with Nell. You know, Nell is so happy to see her friend. And one thing I found interesting in that book was that was the happiest Nell has ever been or presented herself in the bottom. Like, yeah, she got what she wanted, a husband and a child, but she was kind of like to herself. When she heard about Sula coming back, she was like, you know, oh, there's my girl. She becomes more nice to people. She's more open, more talkative. She shows herself, her true self, when Sula comes. And I just thought that was important because Sula, I'm sorry, I keep getting confused. Sula was really Nell's first true love. But it just doesn't really operate, and it wasn't healthy for them. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate that, you know, things happen the way it does, which I'm going to get into. So, Sula finds out Nell's married. She sleeps with Jude, and Nell finds out. Nell is more heartbroken at the fact that Sula slept with Jude more than she's more heartbroken about Jude sleeping with Sula. And that speaks volume because, you know, that's your husband. Any woman will be upset about her man sleeping with her best friend. And it's also telling of how true her love for Sula was, because, yeah, he's my husband, and that's who I plan on living my life with, but lady, I've lived my life with you. I grew up with you. You are my best friend. I knew you longer than I knew Jude. So why would you do that to me? And Sula's response was, well, I mean, we share everything else together, which ties back to what I said earlier about their lack of boundaries. And that was interesting because in what world, I mean, and I guess I'm speaking in a 2020 hindsight vision, you know, literally a 2020 vision. In what world would best friends share each other's like men? And some do still do that. Some are not shy about that type of stuff, but girls that I know would never let their best friends and their man, husband, boyfriend, whatever, sleep together. And it was interesting that Sula said that, because it's like, what made that so, what would make that better? Like, I don't get it. And I guess I'm trying to understand Sula's standpoint of that, because she said that they did share everything together, but no, you don't share men. But Sula did have a reputation of being promiscuous, and that was looked down upon, and still looked down upon in today's society. Not as bad, but it's still looked down upon as being I guess a slut, and, you know, having the community, the bottom slut shaming her for how she is. But Sula didn't care. You know, she was like, okay, girl, I mean, if that's how you want to do it, then okay. But I just didn't know you would be upset. Like, why would that make you upset? And Nell's point is, because you're my best friend, Sula. Like, you're my best friend. We don't share stuff like that, you know. I'm a married woman. You're not. It's not a good look, especially at that time in the bottoms. Pride, of course. So when that situation happened, you know, Nell and Sula again cut ties, and Sula began doing her own thing, and Sula gets sick out of nowhere. I forgot the disease of what she was sick with, but she got sick and she was dying. And Sula's pride of telling her, Nell's pride of telling her friend, her best friend, that I really do love you, and you are still kind of like, in a nutshell, like, you are like my love, the love of my life. Like, you're my soulmate. And she just was so upset with Sula and never got the chance to tell her until the time that she passes. And time goes on, and Jude eventually leaves Nell, and she's lonely, and she doesn't have anybody. Everybody in the bottom is dying out, and it's just her. And the city the times are changing now. I mean, it went from the 20s when they were younger, to the 40s when they were younger, into the civil rights era in the 60s, and times is just changing. And it's just like, it just doesn't feel right, being friends with her because of her pride and how she felt that, Sula betrayed her. And she did. I mean, Nell's feelings are valid, but it just, the way she went about it until, Sula's last breath was kind of like a little sad. But yeah, pride ultimately destroys the relationship and Nell and Sula as individuals, and it more destroys Nell's pride as an individual more than Sula's. Sula doesn't really care, unfortunately. Both stuck in their own beliefs. She feels that, I'm the righteous woman, I'm the wife, I'm the mother, you're just this floozy who just decides to come back to town and sleeps with my man. And Sula's like, well, I'm just free-spirited. I mean, we share everything else. Why can't I share your man? And they're just stuck in their ways. And then the last key factor is loss. Loss of time that they can't get back because they're both being stubborn about their friendships. And with time, as time was slowly dwindling till Sula's death, she starts to forgive Sula. And the loss of a loved one, of course, Sula was the loved one that she lost. Nell finally cries out for the loss of her. She, which was really sad. I almost shed a tear, but I didn't. Was when she went to the grave and she said, or was it the grave? I'm thinking it was. When she was saying how, I love you. How could you leave me? How could you leave me? And I thought that was really, really touching. And as friendships, in today's society, friendships aren't really as important as like male and female, boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife relationships are. And especially female friendships, black female friendships. Oh my gosh, like black females as friends, we will lose our female friends. And I shouldn't be saying the word female. I should not be saying the word female because the right word is woman. We lose our lady friends and we don't really care too much about it. We're like, oh, well, another one bites the dust. I can find me another lady friend. But if you really grieved, like if you really, really grieved the loss of a friend, a female companion, you would know that really, really hurts way more or equal enough as the loss of a boyfriend or a husband or something like that, like a male companion. And people don't really take that serious enough. I mean, it does get talked about a lot on social media, as I do see sometimes when I'm going through like Facebook or Twitter. People have discussions about female friendships and the importance of losing a female friend. Even men chimed in on how they felt about losing their male friends and how it hurt them. And people don't, it's not taboo. Well, it is taboo to me, but people don't really talk about it anymore. They just think of it as like, oh well, another one bites the dust. We're so wrapped up in trying to impress like everybody else and wanting our own little love life and our own relationship that we don't see how important it is for a relationship with a friend is. And we don't take that serious enough. Like, we would just go on about our day and we'll just break up. As women, we have to do better. We just break up with women friends for over any silly thing. And I am guilty of that. I really am. But I can realize that although we break up and we go our separate ways, I do miss my female friends. And majority of them I'm still cool with. I mean, if I was to see them in public, we would speak, have a good time, and go on about our day. But the ones that I really miss and we really don't have a relationship with anymore, it's kind of like bittersweet. And you wish that you could have that time back, but some people don't really take that as a serious thing. So yeah. And the last question of my PowerPoint, I know this is really lengthy and long and I really do apologize, but And I mean, I'm really sorry about the length of this video, but would I say they were really true friends? I think so. It started off as a friend. They're friends because it benefits them type of thing, like a non-sexual friends with benefits type of thing. They got what they want. They got what they wanted out of each other. Sula saw the perfect life in Nell. Nell saw the free-spirited life in Sula, and they took from what they wanted. And although they didn't realize it, it did benefit them, and it did spark up a good friendship. Were they true to each other? I don't think they were true to each other, but I do think that they did have feelings of love for one another, that they did care. You know, you be around someone every day, all day, you're going to develop some type of feelings for them. You know what I'm saying? So that part is valid. The part about them being true friends, I don't think so. I don't think they were really true friends, but they had the makings of being true friends. They could have been true friends. But time was just wasted. Do I think they could have reconciled earlier in life before Sula's death? Absolutely. The way that Nell grieved the loss of her friend, they had time to reconcile. But things just took a wrong turn, you know? So they could have had potential. They did, and they did have potential. But they did love each other. I feel like Sula loved Nell, but I felt like Nell loved Sula more than Sula loved Nell. The love for Nell was there. It just wasn't as much as a Nell type of thing. But do I think that Nell was in love with Sula? No. I just think that Nell was just like, you were the first person to see me for who I was type of thing. You were the first person to know who I am truly. And for that, and you understood, and for that I am grateful for you, and for that I will always love you. With Sula, it was more so like you showed me the side of things of life that I never thought was real. You showed me that every woman in life is different, you know, that you're not like my mama and I'm not like you, but it's cool and I like it. And I really, really enjoy it. And I really love the friendship. All in all, Sula, great book. Like a really, really great book. Recommended 10 out of 10. And I recommend every woman, every black woman and young black woman too. I would say before they get to college, read that book. Because it's really good. It's really, really good. It makes you think. It makes you go back in time, which it did for me when I was young. And I had my lady friends, my best friends. Like, I would never forget my best friend, Ambia. Although we lived completely separate lives, you know. I'm more like the Nell without thinking I'm all that. And she's more like the Sula, more carefree and more out there. We really did have a bond. And that was the first friendship that I thought of when I read that book. And I thought about the comparisons between me and Ambia and Nell and Sula. And I thought that was just really cute. And I just really think that it teaches you a lesson about not only love and friendship, and not only about good and evil, but identity as well. How to find yourself in, and not in people, because what messed them up, Nell and Sula, they tried to find themselves in one another. And although it helped in a way, but it was also kind of like I said, they both lacked boundaries. And with that, with every friendship, every relationship that you enter in, you have to have a boundary, because someone will cross it one day, and you just don't want it to be that person that you just really love and care for. And it just messed up Nell and Sula because they lacked that. But all in all, a really great book, especially for 1973. Really a great book. Again, Miss Barnes, Dr. Barnes, I'm sorry that I made this video so lengthy and long, but I had to present it somehow. Thank you. I will be sending you the information to my PowerPoint on Friday. Today is Thursday night, so if you're watching this video, I'm going to be sending it. And thank you for the recommendation of Nell and Sula. It's a really, really good book, and I really am so glad that I read that book. Thank you.